City of Giants. We often talk about aliens being responsible for building great monuments like the pyramids, but did we ever consider it might be giants? In 2012, something was discovered deep in the Amazon that might suggest just that. A group of researchers, paired with a team of local guides, discovered what appears to be the remains of a large city close to the Ecuador side of the forest. At the center of the city was a large stone pyramid, 80 meters tall, with a flat area on top which held many artifacts. Scattered around the area were many things like old pottery and, most curiously, massive stone tools. They appeared to be much too large and heavy for any average-sized human to ever have been able to use. The government of Ecuador ruled that the formations were just naturally occurring, but the researchers heavily dispute this, saying that due to the rectangle-shaped bricks, cement-like bonding material, and perfectly circular holes, it can't possibly have been caused by nature. Instead, they, and others, believe that this was a city built by giants long ago. What you believe is up to you. Number 9. The Mapinguari Monster. There are many different tribes scattered throughout the Amazon, some without contact to each other, and some without contact to even the outside world. Yet one thing that they all have in common are their stories of a large 7-foot-tall rainforest beast, similar to many cultures' depictions of Bigfoot. The creature is described to be bulletproof and having long hair. It apparently also has a smell that is so strong it makes hunters dizzy. These stories are so widespread and similar that many researchers have gone out in search of the monster, with no luck so far. Some scientists say that this is likely just a legend passed down for centuries, dating back to when giant land sloths roamed the forests, but local people believe it to be a spirit that will kill those who hunt more than their fair share. Number 8. The Boiling River. Hidden deep in the Amazon forest is a hidden river with unexpected and potentially magical properties. Children are told the legends of the Boiling River, about a giant snake spirit that heats it up. Andre Russo went in search of the river after having been raised on the legends by his grandfather, wanting to know if the stories of a boiling river could possibly be true. He took a long journey to reach the supposed location of the river, having to ask permission from a shaman who guarded the waters in order to gain access and study it. Russo discovered that the average temperature of the river was a whopping 187 degrees Fahrenheit, with steam pouring out from the top. It's speculated that the river boils due to faults deep in the earth, but locals believe that it's a magical river with healing properties and use it in their medicinal practices. When Russo was there, he noticed the scariest part of the river, that it kills just about anything that falls into it, dead frogs and other animals floating around where he stood on the edge.
Number 7. Dart frog. You may be thinking, thank God, a frog, something cute, something unlike the bullet ant. Guess again. Not this time. Small but mighty, the poison dart frog is one of the deadliest animals on Earth. I left the word poison out of the title. I juked you out. I did it on purpose. Its shiny yellow skin will certainly attract the eye, but if you decide to try and, catch one of these slippery boys, its poison can kill 10 fully grown adults. All bad. Indigenous hunters figured this out and they coated the tips of their arrows or darts in this toxin. The toxin created naturally here is called batrachotoxin. Another creature we've mentioned on this channel before that also has the same toxin is the pitui bird. That's in Australia though, it's far away. Either way, a lot of poison moving around us in nature. It's actually pretty alarming. Birds and frogs, I'm gonna stay home. I'm just gonna stay home and do this all day. Number 6, mosquitoes. These guys suck, no matter where you are, but when it comes to the Amazon, like everything else, it's much worse than you could ever imagine. Mosquitoes are one of the most dangerous because they can fly, and you don't see them coming. And once they get you, the damage has already been done. They're just full of blood. How gross is that? They're horrible. If you travel to parts of the Amazon rainforest and you don't have yellow fever vaccinations or extremely strong mosquito repellent, you're gonna have a bad time. These suckers are clouds of malaria just waiting for you to walk into by accident. And then you go, oh, and it's too late. Number 5, decoy spider. Oh, these are all horrible. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small, but super smart. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web that they've created. See, this might sound scary, but this large spider is actually a fake spider. It's a decoy. It's a decoy spider that the small spider built out of various materials like food scraps, debris, even their old skin to make a bigger, scarier spider. That's horrible. I wish I didn't know this. Look, art is subjective, okay, that's for sure. I don't think this is the most lovely piece of animal art on the planet, but it works. It gets the job done. A rather impressive defense mechanism for such a tiny little dude. These spiders were only discovered pretty recently, so again, not much is known about them, as there still needs to be tons of research done, just like the other horrible spider on this list. It is, however, believed that this is a feature that has evolved in this particular spider, so it's possible we've only recently discovered it because it's a new feature. Yeah, how neat is that? Hey, spiders are learning new tricks. Hit that thumbs up. I'm so scared. Cheers. Number 4, the electric eel. First of all, never rub an electric eel like they're a genie lamp. You're gonna want 3 more wishes if you do that, my friend. That was the moray eel. That one can bite your fingers off, which is horrible. But you should never touch an eel in the first place because a lot of them are electric. As its name hints towards, these type of eels can mess you up even if you weren't to get the first hit. Specifically, the newly discovered 2.5 meter Electrophorus volti. Yeah, the Electrophorus volti. No, that's not a new hybrid car coming out on the market. This is a dangerous beast. It was appropriately named after Alessandro Volta, aka the guy who invented the battery, and it can release a shock up to 860 volts, more than 7 times the voltage of your average wall plug. It was recently discovered only a year ago that electric eels in Amazon rivers like to travel in packs. They like to travel with their friends, and they all head to the bar together. How fun is that? Packs of electric water snakes. Does it get worse than that? It can't get worse than that, can it? Number 3, black caiman. It can get worse than that. It can get a lot worse than that. If you're not a fan of alligators, you might want to skip to the next one. Black caiman is the largest family member in the Alligator Day crew. These super alligators live in calm, slow-moving rivers, places you wouldn't expect, you know, a dinosaur to be and jump out at you, essentially. Just like dangerous river snakes, one I might talk about later, these black caiman will take it slow and just wait for their prey to have a sip of water. And then at that point, the largest predator in the Amazon will grab its lunch and quickly return to the water, just like that. Be very loud and very fast. This thing eats birds, it eats reptiles, mammals even. Yeah. This thing can and will eat everything. Between 2008 and 2013 alone, there were 43 black caiman attacks on people. Yeah, a handful of these attacks were fatal. I'll leave it at that. Number 2, pink dolphins. We'll do a nice one before we do the horrible big bad number 1. Deal? Deal. Pink dolphins of the Amazon River. They're the largest of all river dolphins, and adults, more often than not, males end up turning pink as they age, and we have no idea why. Scientists aren't exactly sure why these guys are pink or why the color comes later in life, seeing as, you know, they're born gray. Our leading theory here is that the color is brought on by scar tissue that results from fighting with other dolphins or predators. I'm sure it's not an easy go, you know, swimming through schools of electric eels and all that jazz, so yeah, fair, it could be a pretty rough environment. Some old legends hilariously mention that pink dolphins maybe can turn into a handsome man in the evenings, and then during this time they would hypnotize and seduce young women before turning back into dolphins again near sunrise. Yeah, forget Morbius. I want to see that movie. That's a supervillain origin story I would pay to see. The pink dolphin handsome man. He has one day to find love, and then he turns back into a dolphin. Number 1, green anacondas. Of course, we have to talk about the anaconda, specifically the green anaconda. It's green like the Hulk, because it's always angry and scary and violent. This movie came out 25 years ago. I remember watching Anaconda with my family, and it made me extremely afraid of snakes, actually. This was probably the one that did it. So how accurate was that film? Although the green anaconda is a non-venomous snake, the boa constrictor is still one of the most dangerous ever. It's the most feared, definitely the most feared. Green anacondas live in calm marshes or slow streams, and again, they wait until their large prey gets thirsty, and once they come to the water, the anaconda suffocates and wraps around its lunch. Yeah. Anacondas hunt prey that's larger than us humans, so if they wanted to, they could for sure eat us. There's only no evidence of it happening because humans rarely interact with them in general, so anacondas probably don't know they could eat us. Green anacondas can reach lengths of up to 30 feet, so plenty of space for you and yours. Awesome. You and yours. He ended on a crack, on a voice crack. That's great. That's how scared I am of this anaconda.
At number 10 is Carcasas in Venezuela. This place is like a hotbed for some seriously dangerous gang activities. These aren't your regular street groups. We're talking about basically militias armed to the teeth with heavy weapons like all kinds of firearms. These guys are basically their own military force. The units in Carcasas have more firepower than the actual police. They basically control entire neighborhoods neighborhoods, and the people living there are pretty much scared for their safety all the time. Carcasas has one of the highest crime rates in the world, with nearly 41 homicides per 100,000 people. Now, one of the big shots in this chaos is a guy named El Koki. He's a big deal in these parts. His group controlled huge neighborhoods until a while back. Now, the thing is, he's different from other leaders. He's never been to jail, he runs it from outside of prison walls, and he already lived most and longer in his line of work. The government tried to make things simpler with things called peace zones, which essentially told these groups to stop doing crimes and we'll leave you alone. But guess what? Instead of calming down, they just used that time to gather even more weapons and grow even stronger, turning into a huge mess that made these mega gangs even scarier. So while this place isn't technically banned from the public, anyone who fears for their life should definitely steer clear of this city. And number 9 is Colonia Dignidad in Chile. Colonia Dignidad was like this eerie, self-contained mini society nestled in Chile's countryside. Founded by Paul Schaffner, a former official from the fascist group from World War II, you know the one. This place seemed like a utopia from the outside, with lush gardens, schools, and a hospital, but inside was total nightmare fuel. There were tales of this dude's iron-fisted rule, brainwashing, manipulation, and all sorts of creepy mind games. Cut from the rest of the world, living in this controlled environment, people spoke in whispers about the severe trauma that went on behind the closed doors. Physical, psychological, you name it. But it gets even darker. Colonia Dignidad wasn't just about its weird internal rules. It had ties to the Chilean military dictatorship in the 70s and 80s. Rumors swirled around them being involved in all kinds of horrible things and serving as a secluded base for clandestine operations. The Chilean government eventually stepped in during the 90s and investigations were launched. It got its name changed to Villa Bavaria, trying to erase that haunting past, but the stigma remained. Even to this day, it's closed off, with the remnants of a sinister past and ongoing investigations shrouding it in a shiver-inducing mystery. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. And number 8 is the Cueva de los Tallos in Ecuador. This isn't your average cave. Legend has it that this cave holds some serious secrets, mysterious metallic objects that are a little bit reminiscent of extraterrestrial technology. There are whispers that these items might be ancient artifacts left behind by a lost civilization. Some say they may hold mystical powers or knowledge beyond our understanding, maybe even relics from a highly advanced ancient society. But here's where things get fascinating. The indigenous tribes in the area have their own spin on these tales. For them, the cave and its treasures are intertwined with their folklore. Some legends talk about the cave as a gateway to the underworld, or a place where spirits dwell. The metallic objects might be seen as gifts from their god or remnants of ancient heroes. But inside this cave is like navigating a maze while blindfolded, as the passages are labyrinth-like. You take one wrong turn and you might as well be lost in a puzzle. But it's not just about the twists and turns. Indigenous folks around these parts believe the cave is off limits for a reason. For them, it's a sacred place tied to their culture and beliefs. So it's not just about respecting the maze, it's also about honoring their traditions. The mystery behind this cave remains intact because access is tightly controlled, and rightly so. Who knows what secrets might still be hiding in those winding tunnels? We may never know.
Number 7. The Potu bird. Throughout the Amazon rainforest lives a bird known as the common Potu bird. If it's so common, then what makes it so scary? I mean, besides its face. First, let's mention these birds' tendency to always be found in pairs of 2, a male and a female. Because of this, legend goes that there were 2 children, a boy and a girl, living with their father and stepmother. The stepmother was evil and greedy, wanting to gain all of her husband's inheritance, so she convinced the man to abandon his children within the forest to die. He succeeds, leaving them lost in the forest with no hope for them to find their way out. However, the mother spirit of the forest took pity on them and adopted the 2 as her own children, making them into birds. Stories go that the call of the Potu bird sounds like children calling out in anguish, desperate to escape the forest and return to their family. If you think this legend sounds a lot like Hansel and Gretel, you'd be right. This one just contains a lot less candy and witches. Number 6. Dangerous animals. Well, we've somehow made it this far without mentioning the many scary and terrifying creatures hiding within the depths of the forest. Life in the forest has evolved these creatures to have many unique and frightening abilities in order to survive. Let's start with perhaps one of their most famous, piranhas. Piranhas live in the Amazon River basin and are known for their incredibly strong and razor-sharp bites, even being known to have eaten human flesh. Next, poison dart frogs. While beautiful to look at, as their name suggests, they secrete a poison that can cause heart failure in just a few minutes. Arachnophobes look away, as I'm going to tell you about the Brazilian wandering spider. It is one of the most venomous spiders on the planet, and 8 different species of them wander the forest at night in search of food. So you may want to double check your sleeping bag before you get in, as their venom can lead to trouble breathing and paralysis. Finally, a very famous name in the rainforest, the green anaconda, or man-eater. These snakes can grow incredibly large and kill their prey by suffocating them within a tight coiled hold. Number 5. Amazon rings. The Amazon rings are famous massive circular ditches, sometimes up to 16 feet deep and just as wide. So how could these geoglyphs have appeared within the forest? The reality seems to be that these were created before the forest itself even existed. It's hard to imagine a time before the Amazon forest grew, but studies suggest that these rings were created long before the forest was. It's thought to be more remnants of life in the Amazon before the Europeans arrived, with an estimated 6 to 10 million people living in the area. It's unsure just what exactly these rings were used for, and some people have gone as far as to suggest that aliens left the markings in the ground behind, a sort of Amazon crop circle. It's unfortunate that the discovery of these rings was a direct result of the clear cutting and logging going on in the forest. Number 4. Lost cities. Even as recently as the 20th century, explorers have been venturing into the rainforest for supposed lost cities that have never been found. Some of those explorers even becoming lost, never to be seen again, like the tale of British explorer Percy Fawcett. As it turns out, scientists have discovered that these lost cities that so many went in search of likely did really exist, thanks to some high-tech helicopter remote sensing technology. It seems that there were massive cities that were abandoned only some 600 years ago, and it's believed that up to 2 million people lived in the rainforest at one point. The cities stretch for miles and include things like complex waterway systems and large conical pyramids. The true mystery is what happened to this civilization. How do entire cities disappear into the forest without a trace? As these cities were built with mud bricks and are almost completely destroyed, we may never know what really happened to them. Number 3. The Man of the Hole. One famous resident of the vast rainforest is someone you've probably never heard of before. He is known as the Man of the Hole, as no one knows his true name or who he really is. So why is he so famous? He's indigenous to the rainforest and is known to be the very last remaining member of his remote tribe. The rest of his people were killed by farmers and land grabbers who wanted to make use of the land that they'd been living on. As a result, he is the loneliest man in the world, no one knowing his language or how to communicate with him. And it seems as though he doesn't want anyone to anyways. He has attacked government officials who have tried to come close, living on his now protected territory, digging holes to hide in and capture animals, earning his name of the Man in the Hole. It's also thought that he may be making these holes to try and capture anyone who would dare get close to him. He has been caught on camera only a few times, showing us that he's still around. Number 2. El Tunche. If you ever, for some reason, find yourself walking through the rainforest and you hear a distant whistling sound, it would be wise of you not to seek it out, especially if you've been stomping on a few too many plants lately. That's because what you are hearing might be the call of El Tunche, a demon who wanders the forest, protecting the wildlife and condemning those who would harm it. If you haven't done any damage to the forest, then he'll probably just scare you off. But if you have, you might as well start running. By calling out, the demon is trying to entice you to whistle back and reveal your exact location to him. If you do so, El Tunche's call will grow louder and louder, following you wherever you go. Eventually, it invades your mind as you sleep, drawing you into madness. I think that's a good enough reason to start being a little bit kinder to our natural surroundings. Number 1. El Lobizon. A widespread legend across South America is that of El Lobizon. It is a werewolf-like creature that can be seen walking on all fours and also on its hind legs. Different from Western and Hollywood interpretations and depictions of werewolves, El Lobizon is not created through a bite, but instead born. Any 7th son that is born in an unbroken line of boys will become the creature, usually transforming around their 13th birthday. The stories have caused people to abandon, give up, or even kill their own 7th son. Every full moon, the boy will transform into the wolf-like creature, hunting down prey with unmatched speed and endurance. While just a legend, with a place as vast as the rainforest, who knows if El Lobizón isn't hiding in those darkest hidden corners.
Number 10. The Journals. In 1520, Ferdinand Magellan took time out of his busy schedule of sailing around the world to stop in what is now Patagonia, where he found a naked giant dancing and singing on the shore. Magellan ordered one of his men to make contact and to make sure to reciprocate the dancing and singing to demonstrate friendship. It worked. The man was able to lead the giant to a small island offshore where the great captain waited. Describing the scene was a scholar along for the journey, Antonio Pigafetta, who kept a diary of the journey and that was later turned into a book. When he was before us, he began to marvel and to be afraid, and he raised one finger upward, believing that we came from heaven. And he was so tall that the tallest of us only came up to his waist and had a big booming voice. On that small island, Magellan and his men gave the giant food and drink, then made the mistake of showing him a mirror, wherein the giant, seeing himself, was greatly terrified, wrote Pigafetta, leaping back so that he threw 4 of our men to the ground. But once things had calmed down, the explorers proceeded to make contact with the rest of the tribe, hunting with them and even building a house to store the provisions while on shore. Number 9. Giant in Mexico. In December 2022, TikTok user Squatch Watch Project, who claims to be connecting the cryptid community, posted a video of what they claim is a giant. The text on the video reads, "Real giant caught on video in Mexico." The video shows what appears to be some sort of mountain or cave. There is a hole in the side of it, and there's a very large man looking out. He seems to be staring at the person recording and then backs up and goes back into the rocks. Many people in the comments made jokes, but a lot of them think it's real. One user commented, "What's going to be the government's excuse for this one? The video and the zoom on this is on point." Others are commenting that it's like the film The Hills Have Eyes. Now, is it a giant, a feral human being? Who knows, but whatever it is, I will be staying far away. Number 8. Giant complex. In 2012, a team of explorers and researchers discovered what they believed to be an ancient pyramid complex in the remote area of the Ecuador Amazonian jungle, one not known to the general public, internationally, or even within the county. Bruce Fenton, author and researcher, believes the complex may be the lost city of the giants, so named for the large giant-sized tools that were found in the vicinity, as well as the local legends that speak of a race of giant humans who once inhabited the region. At the discovery site, there was one extremely large pyramidal type structure of approximately 80 meters square base and 80 meters height with steeply inclined walls. This structure is made up of hundreds of large stone blocks weighing approximately 2 tons in weight. The large hill has a flat area at the top where many artifacts have been found. It looks like a paved wall, an ancient street or plaza with a 60-degree angle, perhaps the roof of a larger structure. Many of the stones were perfectly aligned, have sharp edges, and seem to have been sculpted by human hands, said Mr. Giovanni, who undertook an expedition to the site in April and May of 2013.
At number 7 is the Javari Valley in Brazil. These tribes in the Javari Valley are like living time capsules, preserving traditions that go way back. Their cultures are a fascinating mix of ancient customs, rituals, and ways of living that have passed down through generations. Their daily lives revolve around what the land provides, as they're masters of survival in the jungle, hunting, fishing, and gathering fruits and plants to meet their needs. So the Javari Valley is where you'll find these groups of indigenous people who've chosen to stay completely isolated from the outside world. So no smartphones, no internet, just their own way of life that's been going on for centuries. Now, why the lockdown from the outside population, you ask? Well, these tribes haven't had much contact with the modern world, and you know how it goes. Introducing them to our world could expose them to diseases they've never encountered before. They might not have immunity to fight off a common cold, let alone something stronger. So to protect them and their traditions, the Brazilian government has put in strict rules, making it a no-go zone for outsiders. It's all about preserving their way of life and letting them thrive without interference. At number 6 is the Cerro Sarisariama in Venezuela. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. This place is like a real-life alien landscape straight out of a sci-fi movie. What makes it special is those big old sinkholes called sima, which are like deep craters that look like as if a chunk of the earth just vanished. These sinkholes are enormous, like giant natural wells, some reaching over 350 meters in diameter and dropping a dizzying 300 meters. But these sinkholes are off limits. limits, because down there, it's a whole different world, a home to unique life forms that adapted to this bizarre environment. The delicate balance of this ecosystem, completely isolated from the world above, needs protecting. So scientists and explorers aren't allowed to roam freely to keep these fascinating sinkholes safe and sound. I mean, you would have thought that this place was banned for your own protection from falling into these crazy sinkholes, but no, the preservation of unique wildlife in these ecosystems is definitely the priority here. At number 5 is Cali in Colombia. Cali, located in southwestern Colombia, is one of those spots you might want to think twice about visiting, because it's got some serious problems with violence and crime. You've got stuff like substance trafficking, human trafficking, and all kinds of gangs running the show up there. And get this, the law enforcement folks often can't keep up with all the crime and corruption happening in the area. Now, it's not just about where you're from or how good your Spanish is. Whether you're a longtime resident, a backpacker, or even a member of a famous band, safety is a huge issue here. Armed robberies are way too common, making it a dangerous place to be. People often fall victims to things like muggings, assaults, and credit card theft. And some seriously awful things happen when victims try to resist robberies. So yeah, it's best to stay informed and cautious when you're in these parts of South America. At number 4 is the Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. Definitely butchered that too. The biggest salt flat in the world. It's like stepping onto another planet like the one from the Star Wars franchise. Imagine this vast expanse stretching endlessly with bright white salt as far as your eyes can see. It's a surreal sight. Now, why is it off limits to solar adventurers? Well, picture trying to navigate through what seems like an infinite stretch of pure white. It's not just about getting lost in the terrain, you guys. This isn't your average stroll in the park. The surface might look smooth, but there are hidden dangers like soft spots where your vehicle might sink or salt mounds that could throw you off your track. This barren salt flat means that there are no defined roads or landmarks. It's like a blank canvas just waiting to confuse you. You could be driving around for hours with the only thing changing in your environment is the time of day. So yeah, it's definitely not a stroll you can take lightly. Better to explore this mesmerizing wonderland with somebody who knows the ropes or through organized tours. At number 3 is Iquitos in Peru. Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, you've got this city that's like an island in the middle of a jungle. It's not your typical city with roads leading in and out. No, you arrive here by either boat or plane. Now the thing about Iquitos is that it's a gateway to some seriously wild parts of the Amazon that are straight up off limits. As you venture out from Iquitos, it's like stepping into this maze of green, dense, untamed jungle that goes on and on. But here's the kicker. Not all of it is open for exploration. There are chunks of this terrain that are a no-go zone because imagine this dense foliage where paths disappear quicker than you could say adventure. You've got wildlife that's both beautiful and, let's just say, not the most welcoming if you stumble into their territory. And then there's the whole uncharted thing. It's like wandering off without a map in a place that's huge and mysterious and you're definitely not gonna find your way back. So while Iquitos may seem like the starting point for a grand jungle adventure, some parts around here are best left untouched. At number 2 is the Madidi National Park in Bolivia. Picture this place as a biodiversity hotspot, like a treasure trove of nature's wonders, packed with dense rainforests and a parade of diversity life. But a lot of these areas here are off limits, not because they're hiding secret societies or anything like that, as far as we know, but for a really cool reason. Conservation. Imagine wandering into a rainforest where jaguars prowl like they own the place and monkeys swinging from tree to tree. That's just a snippet of what you would find here. But to keep this natural wonderland intact, some parts of the park are a no-go zone for curious adventurers. They've got these zones marked out to let the critters and plants do their thing without our meddling. And at number 1 is La Isla de Queimada Grande, also known as Snake Island in Brazil. Off the southern coast of Brazil sits an island nobody dares to visit. It's called the Snake Island and it's off limits for a pretty good reason, if you could tell by the name. Legend has it that once a fisherman who went too close to this island was later found unalived in his boat, surrounded and covered in bodily fluids. This place is like a snake paradise, but not the good kinds of snakes. It's home to the golden lance head pit vipers, some of the most lethal snakes out there. Brazil made it illegal to visit this island because these vipers mean serious business. These snakes are special. They've evolved in isolation. They're even more lethal than their mainland cousins because they've only had birds to prey on, so their venom is extra strong to quickly take out entire birds. Bite from one of these guys could take you out in an hour. Now nobody knows the exact number of snakes here, but it's a lot. Local legends say that pirates or rising sea levels brought them, but the truth is that sea levels rose thousands of years ago, isolating the island and letting these snakes evolve differently. Now despite the danger, some folks want the snake venom for medicine, as the venom has shown potential in alleviating heart conditions, which has led to something of a black market demand for the venom. For some lawbreakers, financial allure is incentive enough to risk their own lives on this island. At number 10 is the Gavia Hippodrome. The Gavia Hippodrome in Brazil is famous for being seriously spooky. Back when they built it in the early 1900s, workers faced strange shadows and accidents during construction, leading some to believe that angry ghosts were disturbed from their resting place. The eerie occurrences continued even after construction ended. Shadows lurked around, workers mysteriously fell, and machines broke for no apparent reason. Some folks reckon that angry ghosts were mad about the construction on their resting spot. Even today, it's still creepy. People visiting or working there say they've seen ghostly figures in jockey outfits. But get this, it's not just a haunted spot, it's also where horse betting happens. Surprisingly, it's the only legitimately legal place for gambling in Brazil. So, while ghosts might be around, luck might just be on your side when you're betting at this place. At number 9 is Minas Gerais Cambucria, the Grand Hotel. I totally butchered that. It's got quite a spooky reputation. Room number 204 there is like the epicenter of all the creepy stuff. People who've stayed there talk about feeling an eerie cold, hearing knocks on the door with no one around, and even seeing things that don't quite add up. I mean, it's not just one or two stories, there are multiple accounts of these strange happenings. Visitors have reported seeing things they can't explain, hearing noises that don't make sense, and feeling a weird vibe all around that place. The Grande Hotel seems to have this mysterious aura that makes people think twice about staying there. It's like something out of the horror movies, but hey, if you're into that kind of spooky stuff, maybe it's a place worth checking out if you dare. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support this channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing the notification bell, all of which is free. At number 8 is the Jolma Building. The Jolma Building in Brazil is known for being seriously spooky. Back in 1975, a huge fire tore through this 25-story building in just under 20 minutes because of an electrical problem. It was tragic. Over 486 people had lost their lives in the fire. Even after it was rebuilt and renamed Praça de Bandeira, eerie things just kept happening. People say they've spotted ghosts wandering around the halls and rooms, but what's even creepier is the story about the 13 souls who got stuck in the elevator during the fire. Some believe that these spirits are still hanging around, adding to the haunted vibe of the place. If you're someone who gets scared easily, this might not be the best spot for a visit. The history and the story surrounding this building are enough to make your hair stand on end.
Number 7. The skull. A team of international researchers studying an ancient skull determined it belongs to a newly discovered species that's more closely related to modern humans than Neanderthals, but others in the scientific community say the skull might belong to a mysterious but already known ancestor. The researchers' study, published in the journal Innovation, said the skull came from a previously undiscovered human species that lived in northern China. Researchers have named the species Homo longi, which translates to dragon man. The skull is the largest Homo skull ever found, and the researchers say it belonged to a male in his 50s who lived in northern China between 146,000 and 296,000 years ago. The skull shows a face that would have been much larger than modern humans, with thick brow ridges and deeply set eyes, but shows a brain that would have been about the same size. The skull was reportedly found by a farmer in the northern Chinese city of Harbin during the early 1930s while he worked on a labor crew that was building a bridge. In 2018, it was given to a Beijing area university. Now, if the skull does belong to a new species, it's largely unclear what their lives looked like. It's also unclear how much they might contribute to the lineage of modern human. The DNA evidence suggests that if the hominin sees another hominin, they're happy to interbreed, even if their brow ridge is a little bigger or their skull is a little higher, said Karen Babb, a Midwestern University anthropologist who was not associated with the research. Number 6. Mysterious silhouette. In December 2022, a TikToker named MixMasterXL posted a video of a giant on a mountaintop in Mexico. They captioned the video, 40-foot giant caught on camera walking the mountaintops in Mexico. Now, I don't think it's 40 feet tall, that's an exaggeration, but it's something giant up there. It's a tall black silhouette that's walking, you can see their legs as they take steps, and both of their arms. Now, if this was a normal sized human, you wouldn't be able to see them that clear or that much. It's clearly something large looking down below from the mountain. Now, the comments were mixed, with a lot of people thinking it was fake, but if it wasn't a giant, then what was it? Number 5. Ancient burial mounds. There is very credible documented evidence that giant skeletons were found across America in the late 1800s. In New England, skeletons unearthed in an ancient burial mound were measured between 7 feet and 10 feet tall. While respected newspapers reported these findings at the time, which points to to the credibility of their source. In fact, there are several documented findings of giant skeletons from all over America in the past, with most reports coming from the turn of the 19th century. There is also evidence that bones of giants measuring over 2 meters in height were found in the tombs across Sardinia. This was covered in an episode of Forbidden History called The Mystery of the Giants. There are some reports suggesting that during the 19th century, the Smithsonian Museum in America was very keen to purchase the bones of giants found by civilians, only for them to never see the light again. There is a similar story in Sardinia, with farmers in more modern times uncovering massive bones and teeth and handing them over to the authorities, only to hear nothing more about them. Number 4. Bone fragments. Giant of Castelnau refers to 3 bone fragments, a humerus, tibia, and femoral midshaft, discovered by Georges Vacher de Lepange in 1890. According to de Lepange, the fossil bones may have belonged to one of the largest humans known to have existed. He estimated from the bone size that the human may have been about 11 feet 6 inches tall. His findings were published in the journal La Nature in 1890. The bones were dated to the Neolithic period, since they were found at the very bottom of the Bronze Age burial tumulus. Writing in the journal La Nature, de Lepange describes the bones in detail. I think it's unnecessary to note that these bones are undeniably human, despite their enormous size. The first is the middle part of the shaft of a femur, 14 centimeters in length, and the circumference of the bone is 16 centimeters. The second piece is a middle and upper part of the shaft of a tibia. The circumference is 13 centimeters, and the length of the fragment is 26 centimeters. The third, very singular, was regarded as the lower part of the humerus. The volumes of the bones were more than double the normal pieces to which they correspond. Judging by the usual intervals of anatomical points, they also involve lengths almost double. The bones of the giant were studied at the University of Montpellier and examined by M. Sabater, professor of zoology, and M. Delage, a professor of paleontology. In 1892, the bones were studied carefully by Dr. Paul Louis-André Kiener, professor of pelagical anatomy at Montpellier School of Medicine, for which he admitted they represented a very tall race, but nevertheless found them abnormal in dimensions and apparently of morbid growth. Number 3. On a mountain. In November 2022, a TikTok user named Painting with Lizards posted a video of a giant on a mountaintop in Mexico. Yes, Mexico again. They claim that they post all kinds of creepy content. Their video has the text "giant spotted on the hills of Mexico. Is this the legendary Nephilim?" The video shows the side of a hill with many houses. On top of the hill, there appears to be a giant walking around. This being seems huge, too big to be a normal human being. A commenter said, "The fact that you can see it clearly from right there, no normal human can be seen like that. That monster has to be at least 20 feet tall." Now, this is the 3rd time a giant has been spotted in Mexico, and I'm honestly starting to believe it. All 3 sightings were in different areas, which to me makes it seem more believable. Do you think there's a giant in Mexico? Let me know in the comments down below. Number 2. North America. Over 1,000 accounts of 7-foot and taller skeletons have reportedly been unearthed from ancient burial sites over a 200-year period in North America. Newspaper accounts, towns and county histories, letters, scientific journals, diaries, photos, and Smithsonian ethnology reports have carefully documented this. These skeletons have been reported from coast to coast with strange atomic anomalies such as double rows of teeth, jawbones so large as to fit over the face of the finder, and elongated skulls, documented in virtually every state. Smithsonian scientists identified at least 17 skeletons that stood over 7 feet in their annual reports, including one example that was 8 feet tall, and a skull with a 36-inch circumference reported from Anna, Illinois in the Smithsonian Annual Report of 1873. Now, an average human skull is about 20 inches in circumference for reference. The Smithsonian Institution is mentioned dozen more times as the recipient of enormous skeletons from across the entire United States. And coming in at number 1 is the giant in Canada. Okay, so this isn't a jungle, but TikToker Andrew Dawson posted a video of a giant in May 2022 sitting on top of a mountain in Canada. He zooms into a mountain and there you can see a large person. Andrew calls it a giant, and I agree with him because there's no way that that is a human. It wouldn't be that big. After his post, he reported having interactions with the CIA and Canadian CSIRO NCIS, as well as claims to being stalked after the post. He also uploaded a post entitled "I'm Scared," where he informed viewers that they might not see him post ever again, but that everything was true. He then posted another TikTok of what appears to be military vehicles on top of the mountain where he saw the giant, which is just suspicious. Since that post, Andrew has not been seen on TikTok or any other form of social media, sparking plenty of theories about his whereabouts. His videos have gained millions of views, but suddenly the comments were turned off. Now, with this being TikTok, things have gotten pretty wacky, but it seems that the full story may never be told. Andrew's obituary was actually posted, indicating that he passed away, leaving family members behind, but did he fake his death? Was it a setup? His video seems so real, but his behavior with everything was frightening. Did the government do this to hide the fact that there are giants? Who knows?
At number 10, we have the animals are going to die. Yeah, I'm gonna be super blunt with this one. If we lose the rainforest, a bunch of animals are gonna die, and you can say goodbye to biodiversity. There's over 10% of the world's species living in the rainforest. That's a lot, bro. Imagine you're at a party with 100 people, and then 10 of those people catch on fire because everyone else at the party was too careless. The party would suck after that. It's hard to keep a good time going when 10 people burn to death right in front of you. And many of these animals can't just be taken out of the rainforest and then put into a zoo. First of all, zoos are cruel and we should shut all of them down, but these animals need a complexed environment that is the rainforest. Without that, they can't survive. Like, you can't just take a person from Chicago and then put them with a bunch of monks to live in the mountains. They wouldn't know the language or what any of the local sports teams would be. It would be traumatizing. At number 9, we have medicine. Because the Amazon has so many different things living inside of it, it has offered us the ability to experiment with some substances that are unique to that area. And some of the stuff that we pull out of the massive jungle could be used to make medicines to cure all sorts of diseases. The key to stopping hangovers could be locked away in the lush green. Imagine you could party all night and then wake up the next day feeling like you got a full 8 hours, even though you only slept for 20 minutes on your buddy's couch before you had to go to work. Whoever made that discovery would be a hero. It's estimated that up to 1/4 of the world's base source of modern medicine would be lost if we lose the Amazon. Like, imagine you're at a party with 100 people and 25 of them catch on fire. Now this party for sure sucks, and someone please call 911. At number 8, we have war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. But if we don't stop burning down the Amazon, people are probably gonna go to war. That's gonna be on the Billboard Top 100 by the end of the week, no doubt about it. Well, if we keep turning a bunch of trees into ash, it's going to have an effect on food supply, air quality, and as we mentioned before, medicine for a lot of people. What happens when people run out of food, clean water, clean air, and can't get any aspirin? Well, they're gonna get pretty cranky and very desperate. And when you have a bunch of cranky, desperate people who haven't eaten in a long time, you're probably gonna have an all-out war. Doing this much damage to the environment is going to have a drastic effect on people's lives.
At number 7 is the Serra da Abobora in the Amazon jungle. Deep within the Amazon jungle lies a spine-chilling spot. It's infamous for a haunting legend involving an ancient ghost named Urutau, I think. This spectral being supposedly lures unsuspecting souls with the mesmerizing melody of a beautiful bird song, but here's the catch. Once drawn near, dreadful things reportedly start to unfold. It's said that those who venture too close to this spirit face frightening and inexplicable occurrences. It's no wonder very few tread into this part of the Amazon. This eerie tale teaches us a sobering lesson that even in the midst of breathtaking places like in the Amazon, there might lurk spine-tingling mysteries best left undisturbed. At number 6 is the Petropolis Museum. The Petropolis Museum, also known as the Imperial Museum of Brazil, has an eerie reputation that's tied to its 19th century origins. Constructed within the Grand Palace of Emperor Dom Pedro II, this site is believed to house the ghost of the former emperor himself. Visitors and staff reported sightings of this apparition, claiming to have witnessed his spectral figure moving through the halls, particularly after nightfall. This spectral presence has turned the Petropolis Museum into one of Brazil's most notorious haunted places. Despite its spine-chilling reputation, there remains a curious allure for those brave enough to explore its haunted corridors and experience the unsettling atmosphere firsthand. For those with a strong heart and a penchant for the supernatural, this haunted locale in Brazil might offer an unforgettable, albeit potentially hair-raising experience. At number 5 is the Brasilia City Hall. You know, the Brasilia City Hall might seem like just another government building in Brazil's federal district, but it has been said that this place, sitting right there in Brasilia, has a history that might make you think twice before wandering in alone. Legend has it that this city hall wasn't always a place for politicians and meetings. No, it was once a mortuary where they stored a bunch of bodies before they were laid to rest. And get this, the place burned down at one point, only to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. Now, the creepy stuff doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. People have reported doors slamming shut out of the blue, cabinets making a racket, and windows closing without a soul touching them. Oh, and there's a story about a guy who got locked in a room all by himself while there wasn't a single other person around. Pretty spooky. At number 4 is the road to Petropolis from Rio de Janeiro. As you head down this road from Rio de Janeiro, this road has some spooky stories attached to it. People driving there have claimed to see a strange thing. A blonde lady on the side of the road. I mean, it doesn't sound so strange, but what is odd is that she seems to be signaling for help, pointing at a broken down car and a body lying nearby. Now, when folks stop to assist, they freak out because it's the same woman they just saw moments ago, now lying lifeless by the car. And here's the creepy part. Poof! She and the car vanish into thin air. It's left those drivers feeling pretty shaken up. So if you're planning to take that road, just keep your eyes peeled and stay sharp. You never know what strange things might happen along the way. At number 3 is the Dream Beach. The Dream Beach in Sao Paulo, Itanheim, holds a chilling reputation among haunted spots in Brazil. Legend has it that the lingering spirits of a deceased couple haunt this very shore. Witnesses claim to have glimpsed these apparitions, two spectral figures, their forms decayed, vanishing into thin air without a trace. Even the beach's maintenance crew attest to eerie occurrences, citing unexplained voices and unsettling noises resonating across the deserted expanse in the dead of night. The spectral setting serves as a cautionary tale, warning visitors to proceed with extreme caution, lest they too become entangled in the mysteries that shroud the Dream Beach. And at number 2 is the road to Victoria. Truckers often drive down the road to Victoria in Campos, Rio de Janeiro, but there's something eerie about it. Lots of drivers say they've seen ghosts while on this road. These spooky figures suddenly appear in front of the trucks, causing drivers to panic and hit the brakes to avoid hitting them. Now, what's really weird is that as soon as the trucks stop, these ghostly figures just vanish. People believe they might be the spirits of construction workers who perished while building the road. It's like they're stuck there, tied to the construction work they're used to. That would really suck. Imagine being forced to haunt the place you worked for the rest of your afterlife. Boy, oh boy. It's a pretty scary place, and lots of folks avoid driving there at night. It's the stories about these ghosts that make people think twice about taking that road. And coming in at number 1 is Snake Island in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, this place technically isn't haunted, but if you ask me, it's definitely the scariest place on this list. This remote island is home to the golden lancehead vipers, whose venomous bite packs a punch that's 5 times stronger than any snake found in Brazil. But they're not the only snakes around, as in fact, here is where the snake density reaches nightmarish proportions. Imagine 1 to 5 snakes lurking in every square meter. Why are they so fearsome? Well, blame it on geography. When Snake Island parted ways with mainland Brazil 11,000 years ago, these snakes were forced to confront evolution by becoming aerial assassins. Yes, that's right, with no terrestrial prey to feast upon, they mastered tree dwelling and developed a venom 5 times more potent than their mainland kin. This lethal venom can eliminate birds instantly and even, get this, melt human flesh. So the Brazilian government wisely bans entry to this reptilian Eden. Very wisely. It's a chilling reminder that nature's adaptability can birth monsters even in the most unlikely places.
Kicking off the list at number 10, mystery spider. Yeah, for this first one, we're not even sure what kind of spider it is. How calming is that? Let's do it. Some kind of spider is making what's referred to as silkhenge. Yeah, this piece of spider art was first discovered back in 2013 by Troy Alexander, who posted a photo of it on the internet, asking for help in identifying what exactly he's looking at, but no one could help identify it because it's a totally unknown phenomenon. These structures are created by spiders or some sort of spider to help with reproduction because they're protecting their eggs. It looks quite alien, but this is all just to protect little baby spiders in that middle tip. There's one main spire that's constructed of spider silk, and that's where the eggs are contained, and then surrounding that spire is sort of a circular fence that is also made of spider silk. Similar appearance to Stonehenge, hence the name Silkhenge. But to this day, we haven't found much. This was discovered back in 2013, and only a year ago, we got more information. Tropical science communicator Phil Torres recently visited Peru and he got footage in 4K. It's beautiful. We no longer have to slide through the same 3 grainy photos. Check this out. Torres explains how this research has affected his well-being. Obviously, he said it's the thing that keeps him up at night because it's so annoyingly hard to find. Despite having seen it in so many places he goes, the next time it's like it was never there at all. Yeah, that's frustrating. It's also tiny too. In this recent clip, it's beautiful. Again, high definition. You can really see how intricate the work is, but Torres also discovered that these things are tiny and they come in clusters. So if you find one, there's probably a few nearby. Also, don't destroy it. We still have no idea who or what's making these silk henges, so take some photos, hang out a bit, do some research. Number 9, the Brazilian wandering spider. Its bite can give you an erection that lasts for hours. That's a real fact, and that's how I'm going to start this point here. This animal is dangerous. Its bite, of course, will hurt you. You'll be sweating, blood pressure will increase, hence that side effect. They're more commonly known as banana spiders, so guess I can't eat bananas anymore. There goes my favorite snack. These little guys have been listed as the world's most venomous spider in a handful of years in the Guinness Book of World Records. We love records, record-breaking spiders. If its name didn't already tip you off, these things can be found in Brazil. There's 8 different kinds of wandering spiders. Avoid them all. That's my advice here on MA 10. That's it. How does that sound? Boom. Science is quite interesting here. They're trying to create the next Viagra using the spider's venom. That's why I started with that wild side effect. There's always a point to it. I'm not just being silly all the time. The future is here, friends, and apparently it's filled with spiders. Just cuts to a bunch of old dudes in the woods just hanging out like, please. Number 8. Bullet ants. They're called bullet ants because their bite feels like a bullet wound. Promising start. Awesome. They're also referred to as the Paraponera clavata, but that sounds like a dark curse in Harry Potter, so we're going to call them the bullet ant for now. They're commonly found in tropical rainforests in Central and South America. Their sting is considered, the most powerful in the world, hence the bullet thing, and its effects can last 24 hours. Yeah, another fun nickname for them is a 24-hour ant. They're also the world's largest ant, so you can really see it coming. You should see it coming, worst case scenario. These guys get you in a colony though, game over. There's a good chance you won't even survive at all. One bite is bad enough, let alone a colony. Its venom's so powerful, it's being studied right now for its use as a pesticide. Yeah, we're sacrificing ants to further our research on how to sacrifice ants. This is dark. That sounds pretty dark when you say it like that. There's actually an indigenous Amazonian tribe in Brazil, and they use bullet ant stings as part of a ceremonial process to become a warrior. I would not pass. I wouldn't even make it to the island. I'm not good with bugs. They have to keep a straight face the entire time whilst getting bit. That's so impressive.
At number 7, we have loss of money. I mean, if there's one way we can try to convince these massive companies to stop tearing down trees, it's definitely with even more green. The main reason that the rainforest is being torn down is because the land is converted for commercial use. These big companies come through with big, ugly trucks and rip out all the beautiful natural foliage so they can repurpose the land for rubber trees, palm oil trees, and even grazing areas. I would hate to see what their homes look like. I'm sure they suck at decorating. They probably took out all the natural light and then replaced it with neon frame pictures of their own. But these companies don't realize that in the long run, they are making way less money. It's thought that in the pharmaceutical industry alone, the rainforest is worth about $150 billion. The global rubber industry, even including everything outside of the rainforest, is only worth $26 billion. And the palm oil industry, even including all the stuff outside the rainforest, is only worth $60 billion. The money gained doesn't even come close to the amount of money that's being lost. Y'all are just being stupid, man. You gotta think about long-term growth. At number 6, we have climate change. Yeah, we already talked about this in the intro, but it's kind of a big deal, so I'm going to talk about it again. If we burn down the whole Amazon, climate change is going to get worse, and then the flood will kill us all, or lack of food, or cannibals. Any of them, really. Now, part of me thinks that the government has a carbon gun hidden away in Area 51 that can suck all the carbon out of the air and save the planet in like 20 minutes, and that this whole climate change thing is just something to distract us from the fact that the Clintons are so powerful they can kill anyone at any time. But I'm not willing to bet all my chips on that just yet. For now, I'm going to hope that not burning down the Amazon will save us. And it can. The Amazon is a carbon sink, which means it sucks a bunch of carbon out of the air. The thing is a giant scrub brush for the atmosphere. 40% of the world's carbon is absorbed by the world's forests. That's a lot. Imagine you're at a party with 100 people, and then 40 of the people there are actively working to shrink their carbon footprint. That would be a pretty woke party. At number 5, we have displacement of indigenous people. This is probably one of the saddest parts about this whole list. There are people who have made the Amazon their home for centuries, and if it burns down, where are they supposed to go? That is their land and they've made a life that isn't so easily changed. You don't go from living in a tribe in the Amazon hunting with a bow and arrow to working at Walmart and putting money into a tax-free savings account. There's a lot of people who rely on the rainforest to survive. Around 31 million people either live in or off the Amazon. The people who live in these areas need the land to live. They need the areas for food, and for some of them they haven't been exposed to outside communities. Because most of us are filthy animals and carry a bunch of diseases, we have way more bacteria on us than any of these tribes have ever seen. So when these indigenous people come in contact with us, sometimes they can die just from the exposure to these new diseases. They don't have a natural immunity to them. There's not vaccines in the deep dark corners of the rainforest. At number 4 we have major damage to the ocean. If we actually don't stop the horrific act of burning down the rainforest like joints at a party, the carbon levels are going to skyrocket, which we kind of already covered, but this won't just affect the atmosphere. Some of the carbon will get absorbed into the ocean, which means the ocean will become more acidic. If you don't know what that means, don't feel bad. The only reason I know what it means is because I had to look it up for this video. Now, if the ocean becomes more acidic, then most of the animals can't live in there. We're gonna see a mass extinction of sea life. Some stuff will be able to survive, but so many fish are gonna die a horrible death of swimming in an ocean that's too acidic. If a ton of fish die out of nowhere, well, it's probably gonna lead to famine and every good fish and chip restaurant closing. That means no more sushi, no more oyster bars, no more Red Lobster. Well, I mean, Red Lobster could stay open on the Cheddar Bay biscuit alone. Every time I go, I eat like 15 of them, even though they clog my colon up like concrete in a drain pipe. But if we destroy the rainforest, say goodbye to seafood. At number 3, we have erosion. So if the Amazon gets destroyed, there's now going to be a massive plot of land that used to be held together by vegetation. Now that all that vegetation is gone and all that land is loose, like your stool after Taco Bell, and what does loose stool do? It flows, baby. Oh, it flows fast. And that's what that loose stool land is going to do. This will cause mudslides and a whole bunch of other natural disasters. On top of that, the rainforest is what fertilizes the soil. So all that flowing earth will be unfertilized. And then when it smashes into farmland, it will make that soil unusable. Basically another situation that leads to massive famine where we all become cannibals and eat our friends. Number 2, we have evapotranspiration. A big word for my little brain. What the hell is evapotranspiration, you may ask? Well, it's when plants give off vapor from their leaves in the process of photosynthesis. This goes up into the atmosphere and makes clouds, and then it comes back down as rain. The whole thing is the circle of life. But you may think that it's not a big deal. How much water vapor comes off of plants and gets turned into clouds? Well, a lot. An acre of corn can produce 4,000 gallons of water vapor a day, and somewhere between 10 to 15% of water vapor in the atmosphere comes from plants. And this will stretch super far. The decrease in rainfall will stretch as far as the Sierra Nevada, and areas between the Amazon will be seeing a decline of 50% in rainfall. Areas like California have already seen the effects of deforestation in the form of drought, which leads to massive fires. So not only will we all be cannibals, but everything will be on fire. And number 1 on our list, it won't come back. This isn't something you can just fix by planting seeds. The whole thing would be gone for good. The Amazon rainforest is a delicate ecosystem that was formed 56 million years ago when the world was hot enough to create rainforests. So the conditions that it takes to create a beautiful ecosystem like that are gone. And we already covered how the soil would be crap, the rain would be gone, the plants and animals would all be dead. The rainforest would all be gone. So we get one shot at saving this thing, guys. Let's try to do it right.